Hello there, welcome to the show. Today I'm going to talk about Ugetsu, which is the film by Kenji Mizoguchi. I had to do this just to make sure I pronounced it properly. I know the director, but I'm bad with names. So this is the Criterion edition. Now there is a 4K edition, but I've only got the Blu-ray. I'm going to put people just with Blu-ray, but it is very nice. With a lovely booklet, as you can see. Lots of pictures, lots of writing. You get the short stories and everything from this tale. Actually, on the disc, you actually get a massively long documentary about the director and a variety of other things. It's a very good package. I will upgrade to 4K when the 4K goes on sale, but I won't have my money. But I'm quite happy with this just now, to be honest. It's a black and white film. It looked gorgeous when I watched projected, and it looks great. So I'm still quite happy with this one. It's not one of the ones I really need to upgrade until the time is right. So the film is it's a film I hadn't seen for a while. I have watched it, but it's been a while, and I just haven't had the inclination to go back to watch it again for a while. It's just more like I have this thing now where I watch things and I'm in the mood for them rather than trying to force myself to watch them because I should watch them. I find that actually works out better for watching and appreciating films because you're not forcing yourself to watch something that you're not really feeling right for that day. So I actually just follow my nose now, and it works out a lot better for me. I enjoy watching films a lot more just by following my nose. So I bought this a while ago. Ugetsu. I've also got Sancho the Bailiff and quite a few other films on Blu-ray, which I'm going to get back to. Sancho the Bailiff is an amazing film, but I need to rewatch it. So Ugetsu is based on supernatural stories, which for Mizoguchi wasn't something he did much of. He tended to be more realistic, but he went back to ghost stories for this film, and he had done things based on certain writers before that were writers of more supernatural, but he was much more a naturalistic director. But he went back to that kind of source for these stories, and he was basically, it was more croissant. He'd adapted before, and he'd used some of his story for this one, as well as taking stuff from the Kwai-don, which are basically Japanese ghost stories, books of just stories. So he combined things to create his own story based on ghost stories of the past that Japanese audiences would know. Now, Japan's interesting in a sense that it's not that concerned if it's heard the story before. It's sort of like you get multiple versions of like a cat demon, you multiple versions of the ghost of Yotsuya, which I covered a week or two ago. There's multiple versions of these tales, and they're much more interested in seeing what the variations are on these tales as they're told, and see what directors do to them. There's multiple versions of 47 Ronin as well. The West does this too. Many versions of Dracula we had, Frankenstein. We do it too. There's just certain tales like, want to see what you can do with this and how you can adapt it into something new and different. So Japan's just like a country just like everything else. There's certain tales they like to see again. And as with the West, a lot of time it is horror stories. So if you're used to watching Japanese gothic films, you'll know most of these stories. But it's done in different ways. So the main tale in this one has echoes of the Ghost of Yotsuya, even though it's not based on that. But because all these folk tales came out from the similar sources and were written and rewritten again, it's like Mizoguchi just took bits that interested him and then adapted them to other things that interested him. So if you look at my video on the Dayu Gothic Tales, there's quite a few films in that set that was also used for this film. So I'll just get to the story now. Essentially, this is about two potters who live during a civil war within Japan, where there's various knights fighting, basically samurai fighting each other for the lords, and these two potters are just trying to survive within that kind of hellish landscape. One of them, the older one, is someone who is a farmer, but he also does this pottery because he loves doing it. But it's that thing where basically he's a skill for it. He knows he can sell it, but there is a suggestion he probably likes his bear farming. It's probably more his thing. And he's got a wife and a child, and the wife is like thinking he's getting too high on himself, or too much like he's too greedy. He wants to keep on selling these pots while the war's going on because he can make a lot of money off it. And the demand will fall once the war ends because wars will always end and they start up again. His younger brother wants to be a samurai. He's dying to be a samurai, even though he can't fight, even though he's utterly useless at everything. He wants to be a samurai, but whenever he goes to try and become one or become an assistant to a samurai, he's told to go away. He's just a farmer, and a really small, useless farmer at that. So his dreams are not going fulfilled. He's also got a wife who gets frustrated with him. Is like, why can't you accept what you are? You are what you are. Just accept that. So, during the war, they decide to create a mass, because the demand's so high, they decide they're going to create a massive set of pots to take to town to sell, where they'll make a killing, and then they'll be much better off. So they start doing that when their village is attacked, and they have to escape the village. But then after the attackers have moved on, they go back, find the fires now in the pots, but the pots have actually finished anyway, so they can take the pots to town. And their wives are saying, just leave it for now, and we'll go back later on, and we'll get them then. The pots are there, it's fine. No, we're going to town, this is when we're going to sell them for the most money. So they decide to cross the water to the town, but there's some danger to take the wife and the son back. The lead character's wife and son back, and says, you just wait with the people surviving, we'll come back in a few days with some money for the proceeds. Oh yeah, great idea. Because they're scared of pirates, so the two brothers and the wife of the younger brother go to town, and that's when things get really messed up. So now, because this is an old film, I don't have to worry too much about spoilers. You can go watch the film. And as I said before, with Japan, it's like how you tell the film story, not like it's amazingly surprising. So, in the town, both brothers get seduced by their dreams. The older brother, gets seduced by this lady of stature who wishes, who loves his pots, who buys a few of them and asks him to bring them to her. At the end of the day, he says fine. The younger brother, because they've made so much money, goes and buys some samurai gear and suddenly just joins the army, and he abandons his wife, who is then raped by all these soldiers, and suddenly has to become a prostitute to survive because her husband's abandoned her. The older brother is seduced by this rich woman to become her lover, and he starts to be just seduced by the idea of he's an important artist, he's something much greater than he ever thought he could be. Of course there are complications, and that's where the film really delivers. So I'm going to have to get into spoiler territory. So if you haven't seen it, go watch it. I'm just describing the first half of the film. Go watch it. It's atmospheric, it's wonderfully acted, it's a beautiful film. But you need to get the spoilers to really express how wonderful the film is. So from this section on, I'm talking spoilers. So it turns out that the wife's back home. She has to deal with because she doesn't know when her husband's coming back, and she's having to deal with the child, and it's all chaos. She ends up getting stabbed as as these starving soldiers try and steal whatever little food she's got left. You don't know what happens to her, but she's been stabbed, so she's really badly off, and she does this try to protect her son from them and try to get food back to protect her son to give him some to eat. Meanwhile, her husband's living a life of luxury, but at a certain point he runs into a religious man who says he's tainted by the dead, and then he mentions where he's staying. It turns out that place is burnt down. Like, those people are dead in there. There's no one left there, and he has to basically exorcise himself of the taint of the ghost that's consuming him. And he's basically telling him, if you keep going back there, you're going to die. They're going to suck the life out of you, and they want to take. They basically want someone to go with them to death. And they've chosen you, and it's really creepy. And there's a wonderful sequence of him trying to fight basically his addiction to being told how wonderful he is, and that's been loved for his talents rather than just being loved for himself, the way his wife does, because he has a good relationship with his human wife. It's just she shouldn't tell him how wonderful he is all the time. She just accepts that he knows she loves him, and she worries about his ego. So he gets seduced by the fact that he's been told how great he is, and he has to fight against that. Meanwhile, the other brother accidentally was accidentally around when the warlord that they're fighting dies. So he takes back the head of the warlord, and even though the chief warlord of his side knows that this guy couldn't have killed this other guy, there's no way, he still come back with the head, and he still has a tale to tell, and he's like, okay, well, you want to be a samurai? I'll make you a samurai. I'll make you someone who's important, because you won the war for me, but I can't prove you didn't. So as he's suddenly importing him back to town as a success, he goes to basically goes to a prostitute house for the night, where he finds his wife having to become a prostitute to survive, and she's ready to kill herself basically out of shame. And that's when he realizes the damage he's actually done by his dreams being so shallow. He has to make a choice whether he's going to go back to his wife, or is he going to go back to the wife and accept his blame for what's happened and forgive her for her mistakes, which are mainly due to him, and accept his responsibility, which he does. Both men go back home. Both men realise their mistake and go back home. But by the time they go back home, the older brother finds his son being looked after by his wife, and the wife makes him rice and all the rest. He wakes up the next morning, his wife's gone, and he asks, when some of his friends arrive, he asks about this. He's looking for his wife, and they say she died, and they take her to her grave. And he realises he's seen another ghost, and she's helped him through the night until he's found by other people. And at the same point, his brother comes back with his wife, and they return to the normal, boring farmers' lives. But at this point, the farmer actually is learned to enjoy making his pots, not just for the money they get, but just by the actual craftsmanship of doing them and doing something, because he liked making the pots with his wife. She would help him. So by doing that, that's a way to remember his wife, and also to atone for his sins. And it's a great movie about ambition and the human need for it and the seduction of it, but also how cruel we can be when we have a chance of actually getting our dream, and how we can toss off people who have supported us for years just for the sake of this dream, even though it's fairly shallow and it's never really going to feed you. It's just a mirage, basically, that these two guys have to actually see for themselves. They have to actually go through the hell of, you know, making those mistakes and embracing the mirage and saying, oh no, we shouldn't have done this. This is a mistake. But they have to face it. It's just they have to. The ghosts are basically the metaphor for what they've, how they delude themselves and what they've lost. And for the younger brother, the instance of the mirage is the samurai life, which turns out to be, throughout the film, you just see these like guys who are working for or samurai who are working for the lords, are basically they're basically starving to death and, you know, not surviving very well, all for the ego of the lord. So it's just basically a civil war that's happening because of these men's egos. They've lost all, you know, base in life. They've just become like the Walking Dead. They don't know it, and they're just feeding their ego and causing hell on earth. So it's a story about what man does by his dreams, basically, and not actually looking into what your dreams actually mean, and what not looking into how destructive you can be if you follow them without actually thinking it through and realizing the downsides of all of this fantasization and, you know, self-love, essentially, without even knowing it. It's basically like, what about me? Why can't you look at me and see me as great? And it's like, what's the downside of that? Where does that lead if you just keep on going? And it's a wonderful film because the ghosts are not malicious. The ghosts just reflect the failures of man. The two women, the woman who seduces the pot maker and her handmaiden, they're just trying to get some human connection before they disappear from life. Like, they had a tragic life. They not have a good time in life, and they're just trying to get some kind of connection before they die. And it's quite tragic. And the wife has to deal with the fact that her husband never loved her enough, ultimately, and left her to die. But she still shows kindness to him, even though in many ways he did not deserve it. And so the ghosts aren't like malicious creatures. They're just that they kind of the echo of the people who had been wrong done by in life, who are now getting ready to move on to the next life. And then now the haunted people really are the living. The living haunt themselves by their imagination and by the fact they cannot accept what reality is to them. They cannot accept their culpability in a lot of what's going wrong in the world. From the lowest of the lowest of the farmers to the samurai lords, no one's looking at themselves and saying, this is not right. So that's a wonderful film. And I'd seen it years ago and really enjoyed it, but I'd just not seen it for a long time. It was just one of those films that I had watched, and it was one of those ones that was like, it's a really good film, I'll need to rewatch at some point, and I never did. But I'm glad I did now, because it's like, it's just amazing. It's one of those stunning films that, especially as you get older, when you watch it when you get a little bit older, you appreciate it more, because it is much more about mistakes and ego and things you actually can, like, even though you can understand them a little bit when you're younger, there's a bit more depth to understanding of them as you get older, and as you've made some mistakes, and as you've seen other people make mistakes, you've can appreciate it a bit more, like what human beings are like, and the cruelty and the failures of human beings, and how we seem to be doomed to make these same mistakes again and again. No matter what our age, we're still like haunting ourselves by our imaginary, you know, needs. You know, just look at the world. Look at America. Look at some of the people in Britain. You can see it. Just look at Russia and their leader. You try to tell me that's not just craziness and just ego and a lack of understanding of what human beings really should be. You know. So these kind of monsters haunt us all the time, and this film just looks at them from a very kind of quiet story, but it's a lot deeper the more you think about it. So I hope you enjoyed this video. That's me for now. Go watch Ugetsu. Bye.